Everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Fiends podcast. I'm your host, Stevie Collier, and today I'm here with Andy Peliquin, as always, the co-presenter. And today it's just us because JT Williams' family is sick. Just kidding. God, it sounded mean. Our prayers go out to JT Williams, obviously. Poor guy.
Yeah, I still think it's that he was afraid of being on air with me, as you know, as my arch nemesis. He's very cautious about us being appearing in the same place for fear that I will destroy him.
That's probably exactly what it is. How's he doing, by the way? Have you checked on his books?
I haven't.
He's still on fantasy.
He's still putting out stuff. He just did a Kickstarter. And he got funded, and his audiobooks are coming out. Looks like he's working hard.
Kickstarter, man, everyone's doing Kickstarters nowadays.
I know. I figured I've got to have something good as a Kickstarter before I run it, but I will eventually run something.
Dang, yeah, he made $3,533.
Nice.
I'm still stunned. So what is it? Michael Scott Earl. What's that name? And then he got kicked off, and then he came back under a different name. It was super obvious who it was just based on his covers. I mean, seriously, there's no difference, just the name. It's something like Lance or something funny like that. But he did a Kickstarter, and I guess what bothered me is, like you said, this is to pay for the production of the books and stuff. And it's like all it was an ebook. And he figured out like a company to do hardback stuff, but I think he ended up making like $50,000 or something. And I don't know, you just don't need $50,000 to do a book launch. But I mean, damn, the guy is business savvy.
Yeah, absolutely. He was like the number 4 fantasy author, on Amazon for a long time. Like he knew his way around the business side of things, at least.
Yeah, I wonder exactly what he did. I mean, he was an engineer before he started, I believe. So, Guy's obviously a smart cookie. But today we're not talking about Michael. You know what? Let's see. So today we're talking about strippers. And, I'm watching The Office now.
Oh, yeah?
I love it. I am freaking addicted to The Office. God, have you seen it?
Of course.
Dude, I'm so out in left field. Like, I'm so lame because I haven't seen the show because I thought it was stupid, not to like, I'm a business guy, but, I went to school for business. So when I would watch Michael Scott, ironically, I was like, this is retarded. This would never work. He's an idiot. But the more I watched it, I got into it. I see how he kind of got through the loopholes. His branch does make some money. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And then I just got addicted to it, dude. And one day I watched 8 hours of it. I stayed up till 6 o'clock in the morning watching it.
Wow.
Because, the heat between Pam and Jim was like getting a little bit intense. And I was like, dude, I stayed up till 6 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. Well, I did kind of take my Adderall a little bit late. I'm sure that didn't help. But it was good. Let's talk V-Day. Valentine's Day, not Vag Day. How was yours? I mean, it's the same thing, but
we didn't actually do anything super romantic this year. For the first time ever, I kind of dropped the ball. Valentine's Day is usually my holiday to plan. The wife plans our anniversary in March, but I was just like so busy in the middle of finishing up Cerberus book 4 that we didn't really have a chance to do anything. And then we were going to do a weekend trip to Vancouver to visit my brother. So we kind of rolled it into one, but we took the boys. So it was like the least romantic trip ever, but it was a really, really relaxing time where we hung out with my brother and his girlfriend and, went out for dinner and beers and went bowling. 5-pin bowling is this thing that they have here. Exactly. So this is a thing in Canada where instead of 10 bowling pins, there's only 5. And then instead of a regular size bowling ball, you use one that you can literally palm. And it's the weirdest thing ever, but it was surprisingly fun. We played a couple of games with my brother and his girlfriend and my boys, and then we went for dinner. And then the the Sunday, we went to this beautiful hike at this place called Lynn Canyon, where they basically have suspension bridges over this canyon. And there's waterfalls. Like I posted some pictures of it on Instagram and some videos because it is just so gorgeous. It was super humid and damp, so it was like walking through like this elven rainforest. It was super, super pretty. And there is this emerald pool where like the water is like super beautifully green, and then around the cliffside there's this waterfall, so you can't really see it unless you get out right on the outermost edge of this rocky shelf. And like I had to like stretch my arm out and take a picture, and like full arm extension just to get it. But it was such a beautiful thing, and so it ended up being a nice trip.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at the pictures. I'm totally. Does one of your sons have really long hair?
Yeah.
And a nose ring?
Yeah, that's my oldest son, Sammy. He's 17, and that hair is always a disaster. He's upstairs, so he can't hear me.
I feel like he and I would get along just fine.
Probably.
Does you say you're going to the gym? Is the wife going with you every morning, or?
No, so she wanted to, but between the work that she works part from home and part at a local clinic as a receptionist, and so between the schedule of the two jobs, it doesn't really work. And she's not really like a weights kind of person, so we have a treadmill in our basement, and so she walks and watches TV, and then she'll go for a walk outside. And she's been running more, just much more casual, but consistent every day. Her thing for the new year has been getting those 10,000 steps in, and she's missed one day since the beginning of the year. Yeah, which is really good.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So my Valentine's Day, I got Lisa. We went to the Melting Pot, which is like a fondue place where like you melt cheese in a big pot, and then they melt like the soup, or melt the soup. They make a soup, a broth, and then you like cook your meat in this boiling water.
Oh, like a hot pot.
Yeah, exactly. And then they do the chocolate and stuff. But stupid me waited to the last minute to get tickets for something I wanted to take her to. Actually, it didn't even matter if it was last minute, but I was like, tickets to a musical. I was like, oh, it wouldn't be too expensive. And turns out I didn't realize it was Broadway, Aladdin Broadway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, I think $120 each. So I was not expecting that. And that's the Melting Pot, but it was really nice. And then, her birthday comes 3 days afterwards.
Oh, wow.
And it's been killing me. I got tickets to another show, and I feel bad because like my gifts to her were all later on. So Aladdin's in March, and this next show is in September.
Oh, wow.
And do you know who My Chemical Romance is?
Yeah, of course.
Dude, they're coming back.
Wow.
Yeah, they're coming back they say it's their final tour, but we don't know if it's their final tour. But still, the tickets are insane. So when she first showed it to me, we were both excited. I was like, Lisa, we can't do it, knowing full well I'm going to get it for her birthday. And for 14 days, I had to keep that secret, but it ended up costing me $750.
Wow.
Yes, it was a huge thing. So I'm kind of like eating saltines for a couple months.
And top ramen.
Yeah, dude. Like, I freaking love My Chemical Romance. Like, anyway, so Valentine's Day birthday was awesome. And then of course, what do we do on her birthdays? We just go to Barnes and Noble for a couple hours. So
nice.
I got this book.
Which one? Oh, nice.
Dude, it's so good. I like it. It's the guy's, I think it's his first book. It's really good. Makes me feel like dirt. No, it's good though. It's interesting. Japan. For those of you listening, it's Mecha Samurai Empire by Peter Yaz. His true parents were Japanese, but he's from Korea or something like that. I don't know. But it's where Japan takes over the world. And so it's the United States of Japan.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a good book. It's good. So today we have an interesting topic for you guys today, and that is that you are more creative than you know. And as you know, I fully understand this topic already, but I'm going to give Andy a chance to explain it.
So this is going to start with a little bit of an exercise. Not exercise like exercise. Let's see. Where did you go, Stevie?
I'm turning on the light.
Okay. Look at an object on your desk.
Okay. Okay, got it.
All right, what is the object? Hold it up so the camera can see it. Stapler. All right. Think of as many creative uses for stapler as you can.
Okay. As many?
As many.
All right.
For that stapler right there.
You want me to say it out loud?
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna say stapling papers together, stapling stuff to the wall, stapling posters to the wall. If you have a wound, I guess you could try and staple your wounds together. If you get really bored, you can use it as like a little monster. If you don't like somebody that's in the room, you could just snap it multiple times just to keep bothering them. If you hate yourself, you could also snap it in your ears so you start hating yourself. You can take it apart, and when you're bored, you can kind of mess around with things to figure out how this stupid little thing works. You could take apart the little staples inside so you can dig in your fingernails to clean them out. You can do the same thing with your toenails. If you've got something stuck in your teeth, that probably could help. If you are an adrenaline junkie, you could probably staple your finger with it. And if you have a good itch somewhere and you don't want to use, you've already destroyed your fingernails like I have, you could use this little tip at the very end to scratch your back with it. You could...
We'll call it there.
Okay.
Now, out of all those ideas that you had, how many of those do you think I would have thought of?
With a lot of time, 80, 75%.
So I can tell you right now that I would not have thought of most of those.
Are you serious?
And this is the interesting thing. So I ran into this article on Psychology Today, and it's from this study in Israel that it was talking about how people are actually wrong if we think our own ideas are not particularly original or creative. So they conducted 3 different experiments. In the first one, the participants were shown 10 common household items, right? Something like a stapler, right? And these were just random things. And for each of them, the people in the study were asked to list as many possible uses like you just did. And for each use, they also had to write down like what percent they thought someone else in the test had come up with. So like, for example, the back scratcher, you would have had to, you wrote down back scratcher for stapler and you would have said, I guess that 25% of the other people in the study would have come up with the same thing. Right. So they did it for all 10 things. And when that first experiment was done, the people, like the researchers, they compared the answers, and so many of the answers that people thought others in the study had come up with, completely unique. Or like maybe one person thought, okay, 60% of the other people in this test or in this exam, the study will come up with the same answer, and really only one other person in the room had come up with that same that answer. So this first study proved that not only are we more creative than we think, but our ideas are more unique than we realized. So that was the first of the studies. The second one, they gave the exact same list of items, but this time they told the people, okay, everybody in the group, the average of ideas is 2 per item. They told that to some of the people. And then they told some of the other people, the average is 6 per item. Now create ideas. And no doubt you guessed it, the people that they said there were more, they told there were 6 per item, they came up with more ideas. Like they proved that they were above that perceived average. The same for people who came, they told there was only 2 ideas per items. They beat that too, but they came up with fewer ideas than the group that was told that there were 6 ideas on average. So what it proved is that we are like, it's, the more we believe other people are creative, the more we sort of push ourselves to be creative.
So do you think that kind of plays a part to do with like authors thinking about other authors are better than them, so they try to up their game?
Absolutely. There's a lot about that we'll unpack. But then there's the third and final experiment. And this time the researchers, they basically lied to the participants and said that their ideas were either highly original or highly unoriginal. And the feedback didn't affect the originality of the ideas, but it strongly affected what they thought about their ideas. So even if their ideas actually were more original, they thought of them as unoriginal. So this perception by telling them, by giving them this feedback, your ideas are original, they believed that they were more original when they were told your ideas are not original. People, they sort of shut down and stopped feeling confident in the originality and uniqueness of their ideas.
That. Yeah,
exactly. So all of this these 3 experiments sort of work together to show, number one, that people are way more creative than they realize. And, we're more creative than we give ourselves credit for. I think it's something that we've talked about on this podcast, that if you and I sat down to write the same story with the same character, right, we would end up in 2 totally different places, because number one, our ideas are totally unique. Our perspective are totally different. Our perspectives are totally different. Everything, we think differently. And so this is something that a lot of people, they don't realize, is that even if you feel like you're the most unoriginal and uncreative person in the world, your brain patterns, your way of thinking, all of that is totally unique to everybody else in the world. So you have that unique, fresh perspective that can make something amazing.
Dude, so if I was like in this study and they told, like, I would be like, I think I would have went exactly with what they were looking for, because if someone tells me my ideas aren't original, I mean, we all suffer from self-esteem issues, but I think I really would kind of shut down and clam up. I'm not good with criticism, and it's something I'm working on. It's Absolutely. A criticism of myself.
But what's interesting is this is sort of also reflective of the way we think of ourselves, that self-talk. I have come to understand that my ideas are not the most original, right? I've said it on this podcast that I don't think I'm the most original writer. But maybe that negative self-talk or that limiting self-talk is actually impairing my ability to be more creative, because I am stopping myself, or I'm giving myself this negative feedback and saying that I am less creative than I believe I am, when really you look at my stories and I don't think anybody else in the world could write the same stories, just because there is no one else in the world who thinks and acts and talks like I do. So this is something that a lot of authors, especially young authors or new authors, they'll have this. I'm sure you've experienced this before too, where you kind of talk yourself out of a great idea or a big challenge or something that maybe you started out being excited about, but because you're worried that it's not original enough or you're not creative enough, you kind of talked yourself out of it.
Oh, dude, this whole thing with Jonathan, my life has gotten a lot worse mentally, just because I'm so stressed about it, just because I don't want to let him down, and I get in my head and it just shuts everything down. So I can already tell you that study is pretty true, because it's weird. You just sit down and you're like, you don't want to take any more risks. And that to me is just heartbreaking, because I'm a risk taker when it comes to my writing. And I feel like that thought process is really stifled. Yeah. Right. Oh, don't get me started. Don't get
me started. I think this is sort of like the psychological foundation to validate the law of attraction, in the sense of, the what we tell ourselves and what we hear from other people sort of creates the reality that we live in. Yeah. But I liked this idea that someone else sets limitations on us and we try to exceed the limitations, but we accept those limitations without really any proof. When the researchers told the participants that people on average came up with 2 ideas per item, they kind of limited themselves. They didn't, they pushed, maybe they went for 3, 4, 5, but they didn't go as far as they did when they were told that people came up with 6 ideas on average, because then they had to, they were trying to beat or live up to or exceed the standard, or what they believed was the standard. And they, those limitations didn't affect them, or their idea of what the limitations were was so different. And I think that a lot of authors over the course of their career can often end up limiting themselves, in the sense of, this is something that will or won't sell, right? This is a story that readers will or won't love. This is a character that will or won't resonate with readers, right? There's a certain amount of experience that helps us to make the right decision. But then it's sort of this question of, are we stopping ourselves from being for being as creative as we really could be? Are we putting limitations on our own minds with this both internal self-talk and then the external, the feedback that we get from others, whether it's a negative review or feedback from very critical beta readers, or whatever it is, we could be limiting ourselves. You may feel like you can't break out of whatever box you're in right now, but that's just sort of the product of, both internal and external feedback. Maybe you could, and you would excel in new ways, but because of this feedback, you've stuck inside the box.
Fascinating. You know what? All of this is reminding me of a law of attraction story I like to teach, and it's one I often like to think about: the power of the mentality, the power of your mentality, and it is much like a box. So if you don't have a very big box and you don't think much of yourself, you're not a lot's gonna come out. You're not gonna really rise above it. And a good story that kind of depicts this and represents that is, in circuses, when they have elephants as babies, they tie them up and they keep them tied up until they grow big. And when they're these massive, what is it, like 2 tons of an animal, they're still tied to that one measly rope that they could snap just by walking a foot out of the distance. Like they wouldn't even notice it. But since they were babies, they were trained to think, hey, this rope's not going to break. So they don't even try it. And it's fascinating to me. That's a true story.
Yeah.
So that, I feel like it's a really good representation of how our minds work. And that kind of reminds me of what we're talking about today. And that is, if we have these, if we don't think we're being original enough, that we just kind of stop. I mean, have you suffered? Yeah, you just said that you kind of did, that you, I honestly thought you were going to say that it made you a stronger author because you wanted to push back against it. But then
so here's an example of something. So I'm working on the science fiction series, but do you know why I went to science fiction? Because I wanted to write another assassin, and I didn't think, this is something that I kept inward that no one else knows, I didn't think I could come up with a story as creative or creative enough to differentiate this new assassin from the hunter, from the thieves guild, from all these other things that I've created inside the world. I could, I'm sure, if I had, if I doubted myself less, or if I put more effort into it, I could have come up with something way more creative than I currently have. Maybe I could come up with something, more along the lines of Mark Lawrence's Red Sisters, where it's, like a priesthood of assassins, or, more like Michael J. Sullivan's Royce, where it's more of a mob than the Thieves Guild. But I've in a way, I kind of painted myself into this corner where I said, inside the world that I've created, I don't know if I have the creative talents enough to craft a new assassin that people won't be, oh, he's just rewriting another Hunter story, right? With a different name. Yeah. So this is the idea that I had, and I wanted to do something with it, but I didn't have that, I didn't feel I could be unique and creative enough within my fantasy world. So I decided that if I jump genres, it's a whole new ball field to play with, and I could be creative in a totally different way. But this is how I ended up writing science fiction, because I wanted to do something, and I doubted I was creative enough to be able to do it within the framework that I'd already set up.
Interesting. Oh man, I've actually felt that too with my first assassin Esh, which so I'm such a noob. Like, he turned from assassin to just a warrior. It's kind of interesting, just because I got bored with it. But yours stays assassin throughout the entire series. But yeah, I feel like a lot of my characters always turn funny. I try to make a serious character, and it never really works. Like, I always feel myself drawn to adding a lot more humor than I was supposed to with my characters. And my kind of like twin to what you just said is I feel like my next book will never be as funny as the one I just wrote. So why?
Oh yeah.
Why even try? And that's a really debilitating thought right there.
Or not even as funny as or as action packed, as dynamic, as intriguing as the character development. Like in book 1 of the Cerberus series, it's just pretty much straightforward action. There's a little bit about his former addiction habits, and there's that, right? It's not so focused on the character development, but there's enough that I feel like you can really sink your teeth into. Book 2, he goes back to the planet where he was raised, his home world, where his parents ended up dying in an accident, and so he was in the foster care system, and there's a lot of like backstory and character stuff to really chew on. And then I hit book 3 and I was like, where do I go with this character, or what am I going to do? And I found some small ways to develop him as a person. But then again, I hit book 4 and it's like, what am I going to do with him? And then now that I'm starting book 5, what's his character development? Is this story going to be as good as the last one? I know the last one's good because I'm done writing it. I haven't yet put the first words onto book 5, which I'm starting tomorrow. So there is this doubt that will it be as good, or will it be the book that you go on a peak and you drop, and that's where you lose a bunch of readers. So this is something that I have to face on a daily basis. I kind of combat it by having an outline, because I know what I'm going to do. I know what the story is going to look like, so I can say, okay, I'm going to tweak this outline. Like I literally just tweaked a bunch of the beginning of the book to where, right, in the beginning of the book, he goes into this place, finds it deserted, what the fuck's going on, and he kind of leaves with no real consequence to it beyond that mystery. Mm-hmm. Now he goes into this place, where the fuck is everybody? And then all of a sudden SWAT is storming the building. Nice. That right there is a badass introduction to the story. But because I had this idea of, he's in this building, and now I know, I can tweak it. And so this is sort of my way of controlling what I can, so that I have the confidence to sit down and write and move forward with something that is incredibly nerve-wracking, the art of creating something from literally thin air.
Do you think that you said that you're afraid of that dip? Do you think it's even more prevalent in someone like me who has no outline, so it's a gamble every day? Or do you still experience that to a pretty high degree? Because you later on in your series, are you still outlining?
So I've got the first 6 books outlined, but I still don't know everything about every story, because every story comes up with really interesting new twists that I have to deal with. So I still have to tweak the outlines. I know I've got 12 books to get to the end of this series properly, tell the story. I know that I still need to outline the second 6 books, and there's so much in there that I don't know, that I don't yet have figured out, and it's kind of worrisome, because what if I make the wrong choice and I send the character down the wrong path, in the sense of the story? Like he's gonna face off against another assassin, right? That's going to be a fun one. But what if the assassin he faces off with, if I had shifted that assassin to one book later and set him up against someone else's book earlier, he would have had some information or some new ability or something, interesting that changes the tone of the story. It's like there's so much up in the air, even with an outline, with this outlining process, that it's sort of this endless struggle with that. Am I creative enough? Am I insightful enough? Is what I'm saying, does it actually hold value? Again, like I asked someone a month ago, does this character read like how he's supposed to? Because I've got no idea how, what these kind of people are like. Thankfully, the answer was yes, but it's still this nerve-wracking thing to this day, even though I've written 4 or 5 books with this guy's point of view in his brain. There's still so much more that I don't know about him and his life and doing all of that.
Do you so does the development of the lead character for you, when you see that it changes a little bit more than you expected, does that make you nervous? Like now you're lying to the audience? Does it give you any backlash at all?
No, because the evolution or the change in the character is the more honest one. Like if I knew that I wanted there to be a moment where the character talks with someone else about his drug habits in order to help them stay clean. The way that I think I'm going to have that conversation go might start one way. And then as I'm writing it, maybe the character snaps back and says, who the fuck are you to tell me anything about being clean? And the guy, he has to seriously consider it. So at the beginning, I went to the scene thinking he's going to, lay this wisdom on her and solve all of her problems. But the more I get into it, the more I realize that's just bullshit. There's got to be more to it. So this is something that like the character growth evolves, and it's always for the better, or I feel it's always for the better, in the sense that it's the more honest response to the situation they find themselves in. And that situation can only be predicted so much because the situation changes based on what happens, where they are, what they're doing, what they want, how their desires and their mission has evolved over the course of all the previous books.
So when did you see this article?
Last week.
So, okay, good. Perfect. Do you think it impacted your writing at all?
No, because I haven't written anything since then.
Oh, you sack. You're so lazy, dude. Like,
I know. I've taken 1 day off.
What? I thought you
one
said
day
last week.
So I finished Friday. I went traveling Saturday and Sunday. And then Monday I was like, all right, I'm going to take the afternoon off. I didn't get to. I ended up doing, some light work. And then Tuesday afternoon, I finished all of my writing stuff, editing, business stuff at like 1. So I cooked lunch for the kids, my teenagers. And at 2:00, I sat down and I got to play video games until like 5:30. That's as much time as I've been able to take off between books in a while. So I'm feeling good about that.
What did you play?
Mass Effect Andromeda.
So that's kind of work, actually, right?
It absolutely is. So I actually started playing Mass Effect because the worlds, the landscapes, all of that stuff, I want to have that. I want to get that sense of wonderment that you get in the game when you go see this new world for the first time. I want to sort of experience that. And every time that I play a game or that I watch a movie or TV show, something pops up. So that's like a Mass Effect is science fiction. I was playing The Witcher thinking, it'll help me with my fantasy. Now I'm more playing science fiction games because I want to, I want to sort of be inside that world a lot more, be immersed in that world so that it creates this breeding ground for ideas.
It really, really works. Like, I'm glad I beat Fallen Order. So Jedi Fallen Order.
Nice.
And, I paid, what I paid attention to was ship parts, the insides of ships. That's really where I lacked. Just technical wording and stuff like that. I mean, dumb, like flux capacitor, regular capacitor, reactor. These are things you don't use in fantasy,
Yeah, exactly. I've been on such a steep learning curve for the last book was in a ship, and I'm pretty sure I got so much wrong. I'm gonna get it back from some of the beta readers, and they're gonna be like, "Nope, this isn't how you say it. This isn't how you say it," and I'm okay with that.
I like to keep it simple, so if it's like a control panel, I'll call it a control panel.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I try and steer away from it a little because I'm more of a character-driven kind of guy, anyway, and it makes me feel a little bit better.
But it's like, how do you describe the character Nolan? He goes into this warehouse and this stack of crates he's going to inside the, in a normal room, it would be in the northeast corner of the room. How do you describe that? I have no idea.
That's actually why I got this book. It hasn't been any help at all yet, like zero. Like the guy's doing exactly what I'm doing, and it's not fair. He was supposed to do all the hard work for me, but it's funny. When I first started out as an author, I thought it was cheating to look at other books and video games and movies, and now, dude, I am a thief. I steal all the time. Of course, I make it my own, but something that's really helped me get over some creative plateaus is watching YouTube videos, like medieval sword fighting, props. I'm currently watching. I've watched like 9 hours about America's biggest jewel thief, and I'm learning all about prison because I want my character to go to prison. Dude, Screw prison, by the way. We need to do a whole episode on prison.
Prison is intense.
But stuff really happens. I want you to know that.
That is the least of the dark shit that goes on. Like
I would rather the other part.
in one of the forthcoming books, the character, he's going to visit his brother in prison, and he ends up, like your classic story. He goes to prison thinking he's going to be, just a visitor, and he ends up getting locked up.
Oh god.
This is stuff that's based on like real black sites that are, exist in the world today. Just horrible shit.
Yikes, dude. Oh.
And there's gonna be a juggernaut scene, from X-Men, where there's a guy like destroying the walls. I'm gonna do a scene like that.
I think Deadpool
not that one, not like, because that juggernaut wasn't as good. The juggernaut from X-Men, where he just like lowers his head and charges through the walls. I'm gonna have a scene like that.
It's the same character though, right?
Same comic book character, different actor.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute. I really thought it was the Juggernaut. And he's like, I'm gonna turn you into a cock ring. And I was like, oh god.
So that's actually Ryan Reynolds voicing the character.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. I love Ryan Reynolds, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. They're making Deadpool 3 actually.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Money. Well, dude, I've loved this topic. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
It's a really interesting one. I guess we can field questions from the audience if the audience has any questions.
Yeah, let's chat a little bit more. Is there any questions from the audience from two savvy, sensual authors? And while you do that, we're just gonna gab on. It looks like Rajin's making his very own book, his first book.
I saw that. That sounds awesome.
I kind of want to know what it's about.
I know, me too.
I wonder if Rebecca has like any like effect of this. You know who I haven't seen in a while? It's that younger guy that used to come on to the podcast in the chat. I always got him and Rajin mixed up. It's
Rashun.
Yeah, where is he?
I don't know.
Last I heard, he got a girlfriend. I bet that's what it is. Oh yeah, I think he met her at church.
Interesting. So a question from Rajin: is Taya sentient? Man, that's a super complicated question.
Your AI?
Yeah, the AI.
Yeah.
It's tactical assault interface advisor or something like that. Just like a bunch of bullshit words strung together so I could call her Taya.
That's my book in general.
Yeah.
A bunch of put together.
So you know what, Regine, I am going to say that over the course of the book, Taya will become sentient enough that she's an interesting character beyond just there's got to be evolution for all of the characters, not just Nolan and Bex, but Taya's also got to get some evolution as well. So there will be a certain degree of sentience. I still haven't figured out exactly what and how much, but there will be a certain degree of that in the story, or we'll explore some of that. Not, to an Asimov degree of what is, life and the soul and all of that, but just playing a little bit more with that. From Kelly, do I use the same beta readers for science fictions as I do for fantasy? I have some who do both, and I have some who are specific to science fiction because they are a little bit more expert at the science fiction aspects of it. But I think for the most part, my beta reading team is like the same core people, and I maybe add one or two depending on what specific elements of the story. That's what I got.
It's funny that your Taya becomes sentient. I'm surprised you're actually honest about that.
Well, I like you can't not, when you've got an AI character, it's kind of the evolutionary path of every AI character to a certain degree. So it's like having a gun. When you have a gun, you have to fire it. I feel like if you have an AI and there isn't at least some degree of that discussion of, the humanity, sentience, all of that, then it's adding this this character element in that doesn't get used properly. Like if Nolan was a drug addict, like he is, but we never deal with addiction. Addiction is just something in his past, and it's never brought up again, other than he was an addict. Then it's a poor use or a misuse of a super critical character component.
You ever played Halo?
Yes. I read the books too.
Oh man, I love the books. Cortana and John, Master Chief, dude, I bet she becomes sentient at some point, and they totally do it.
Stevie's been watching too much Rule 43 stuff.
Dude, I read so much fan fiction about John, and I have pictures of him, and I dream about him. No, what I was gonna say about your Taya. Again, I thought I was being original by making the AI sentient. Obviously, just dumb move. Either way, but the way I make her sentient, Jonathan messaged me, and he's like, "Dude, Jesus Christ!" And you know what? People might not like the way she becomes sentient. It's I want to say it's kind of dark. It's kind of sad. It was weird, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to add a little bit more spice to the story. So I'm excited to see what people say, good or bad, actually. So I kind of like when people didn't like when my main character peed himself in book 1, and I refused to change it. So
that is. Oh, thank you, Regine. Rule 34. My apologies.
All I know is Order 66. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Rebecca, why don't we do a reading from one of our books? I don't know. I don't really have a book that I want to dive into right now.
Dive on in.
And like I can't really read any of the Cerberus stuff because it's not it's just getting sent out for ARCs, and we're kind of keeping everything under wraps until the April launch. But after the April launch, we definitely will have a snippet of Assassination Protocol, and we'll get to meet the awesome characters.
Yeah, I don't have anything written either. When I was at 20 books to 50K, I sat down. I was like, I don't want to write this book that I'm writing now, so I'm going to write a short story for the series I'm going to write after Jonathan's series. And dude, I had so much fun with it. So much fun. And turns out he sleeps with 2 prostitutes, and he gets, because they're aliens, right? And he gets up, and like the pimp wants his money, so he sends his goons in. He's like, you gotta pay for the man and woman you hired. He's like, no, 2 women. He turns around, and one of them just wiggles his fingers.
Oh man. Oh, a fun scene that I'm writing into Cerberus book 5 is a scene from The Godfather. So like the classic scene where basically the character Nolan lives above a strip club, right? And on the way out of the strip club, there's going to be, a couple of guys who are trying to dodge so they don't have to pay their bills. And Nolan is going to take him down from his wheelchair because, we want to show a little bit of badassery. Mm. And then the manager, who you're going to love the manager, they're going to have like, I'm literally going to watch the scene from The Godfather where he says, you come into my house and you ask me, on the day of my daughter's wedding to murder a man or something like that. I'm going to write like a scene like that, where the character kind of talks like that, and because of something that makes sense in the story, they have like a distortion to their voice that it sounds like the character from The Godfather, and it's just like this little tiny little thing that people who are Godfather fans will get it, and I think they're gonna like it.
Is that book 1?
That's book 5.
Oh wow, dude, that's a great. So he's in his wheelchair. So he goes.
Yeah. What's that?
Because if he's not in a suit, he has to be in a wheelchair. Exactly.
It's actually a really, really fun dynamic to play with, because you like literally all you have to do to render him helpless is take him out of the suit, fry his suit, sever his connection, damage the suit. Like you can do all kinds of stuff to depower him, right? Like with the Hunter and Darkblade Outcast, I had to come up with this whole, plant and affect his healing abilities and all of that. With Nolan, all I have to do is just find a way to get him out of his wheelchair. Like in book 3, Cyber Strike, he goes to a shooting range and he's in his wheelchair because he's in public, and he goes shooting, and then all of a sudden bad guys come in and he's right there. He's got no armor. He's got no way to run. So yes, Regine, he's not helpless. He's just not as powerful. But there are ways where it's fun to make him absolutely helpless, like I did in Cyberstrike. There's one point where he's literally trapped inside his own armor and it's killing him.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah. And it's fun to play with things like that because you've got this character that when he's in full armor, when he's armed up, he is badass as all hell. But that's actually a really good idea, Regine. A dude prone with a rifle is still prone with a rifle. I've got to do that where he's got no legs, he's got no armor on, but he's still got the rifle. Oh, I know exactly how I'm going to do that.
Does the wheelchair have like machine guns on it?
No, it doesn't.
Machine blasters.
It's just a wheelchair.
Oh man, his kneecap should be like surgically removed and replaced with machine guns.
So the thing is, his body is not impaired. It's just the spine. There's a grenade shard in his spine, and they can't pull it out.
Ow.
Yeah, and so he's still got his legs. He just can't move them.
Kind of reminds me of a crippled Iron Man.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the vibe that I get. I mean, he doesn't, have the thing, the boom, where all the armor comes onto him. Like he's got to actually, pull on the boots and put on the helmet and stuff like that. Yeah.
I like that though. I like that factor of it. I think that's really cool. So, well, I guess that's it for this episode. Andy, who do we have next? So we're actually having the podcast next Tuesday, right? Yes. With
Scott Moon.
Scott Moon. Hey, does Scott still do your editing?
No, that's a different Scott.
Okay, but he still does your editing.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But these books they're going through Athon, and Athon has their own editor. So
I got you. Cool. So we have Scott Moon next Tuesday, guys. Remember, it's Tuesday, not Thursday. And Regine, man, when you publish your book, man, you might be up on here if you want to.
Whether it's sci-fi or fantasy, we're going to get you on, Regine.
Sci-fi or fantasy. You can, if you don't want to show your face, we'll, black you out and, do your voice weird, kind of like they do in the police stuff, police interviews where the witness doesn't want to show. Anyway. And
Regine, thank you because you just gave me the way to do something badass in book 6 with your comment up there. This one here.
He's going to send you a bill now. 10% of the profit of that book. Awesome. Well, that is it for this week's Fantasy Fiends podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed your stay. Thank you so much for hanging out. Again, remember, it is next Tuesday, not Thursday. And I keep saying that because I'm trying to remind myself. Andy, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Nope, that's it. We will see y'all on Tuesday.
Go follow Andy on his new Instagram at Andy Pelican Author.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, my new Instagram is up and running. I've been posting so many things.
He actually does have a lot of content on there, so go check it out. That's Andy Pelican Author. Yeah, Regine, give me an idea. I'll be waiting for it next week because I need help. Anyways, guys, that's it. We hope you have a great night. We'll see you next week. Love you guys.
Bye.
Jazz fingers.